In the summer of 1940, the skies over Britain thrummed with the promise of conquest. A confident young German pilot flashed a thumbs up as his Messerschmitt Bf 109 roared to life. Victory, they believed, was assured. But above those serene azure waters, a storm was brewing. A storm that would expose the Luftwaffe's deadly blind spot. The Third Reich's air arm had dominated the skies of Europe. From Poland to France, its aircraft struck fear into the hearts of its enemies. Germany's war machine seemed unstoppable. Now, the Luftwaffe turned its attention to Britain. The stakes were nothing less than control of the English Channel and the fate of a continent. But Britain was not yet broken. From hidden airfields, the Royal Air Force prepared to meet the onslaught. Sleek, deadly Spitfires scrambled, poised to challenge the invaders. The battle for the skies was about to begin. The Luftwaffe's doctrine was sacrosanct: blitzkrieg from the air, a swift, decisive campaign of aerial bombardment designed to cripple the enemy before ground forces even advanced. In the command bunkers, generals confidently discussed their plans. Success was, in their minds, a given, but they underestimated the tenacity of the Royal Air Force. They underestimated the importance of those distant islands. And crucially, they underestimated the power of the unseen radar. The initial attacks were surgical, German bombers flying in perfect formation. Precision raids on British airfields, designed to obliterate the enemy's ability to fight. But the British held fast. The attacks continued, and the British response was ferocious. Unseen, unheard, a crucial element was at play: radar. It provided early warning, guiding the British fighters to intercept the German bombers. In dimly lit bunkers, radar operators tracked the approaching German formations. This was a war of technology as much as courage. Losses began to mount. German pilots, once so confident, faced a deadly reality. Their doctrine, their unshakable belief in their own superiority, was being tested to its limits. The cost of their blind spot was becoming devastating. The limitations of range, the complexities of supply chains, the strain on resources, these factors, ignored in pre-war planning, now crippled the Luftwaffe's ability to wage a sustained campaign. The tide was turning. The dream of swift victory had begun to unravel. The strategic calculus shifted. The Luftwaffe turned its brutal gaze on civilian targets. Bombs rained down on London. A desperate gamble, a strategic blunder. But the island nation was not broken. The Royal Air Force, battered and bruised, showed a resilience that surprised its aggressors. They recovered, they adapted, they would not yield. The Battle of Britain became a turning point, a brutal ballet of metal and fire fought high above the waves. The fate of nations hung in the balance. Spitfires and Messerschmitts locked in mortal combat, smoke and fire filling the sky. The technological edge had shifted. British fighter aircraft possessed superior agility and firepower. The advantage, once firmly held by the Germans, was now contested. The number of downed pilots grew with each passing day. British tactics exploited the weaknesses in the German formations. They learned, they adapted, and in the process, they began to unravel the carefully constructed doctrine of the Luftwaffe. The cost of the air war was becoming brutally clear. Each shattered fuselage, each lost pilot, was a testament to the escalating price of their doctrine. The relentless demands of war strained the German war machine. Resources, once seemingly limitless, began to dwindle. The failure of their doctrine was a slow, agonizing realization. The swift, decisive victories envisioned in their pre-war plans were becoming a distant memory. Instead, a grinding war of attrition consumed Germany. The focus shifted. The Eastern Front beckoned, promising a new stage for the Luftwaffe's dominance. But this theatre of war would expose the fatal flaws in their rigid approach. The vastness of Russia, the ferocity of the winter, would prove to be unforgiving. The challenges of the Eastern Front were unlike anything they had faced before. The brutal cold, the endless distances, the tenacity of the Soviet defenders, all conspired against the Luftwaffe. Their doctrine, built for a different war, was failing them. The The Soviets adapted, learning and fighting with grim determination. Their tactics changed, their air defenses improved. They became a formidable opponent, forcing the Luftwaffe to pay an increasingly heavy price. The Battle of Stalingrad became a turning point, a city consumed by fire and blood, where the Luftwaffe's deficiencies were laid bare. The consequences of their blindness would echo throughout the remainder of the war. Then the Americans arrived. They brought with them a new doctrine, a new strategy, and a relentless will to fight.
Presence signaled a shift in the balance of power, a shift that the Luftwaffe was ill-prepared to counter.
The Allied bombing campaign intensified. Wave after wave of bombers struck at the heart of Germany. German cities burned. The cries of the wounded mingled with the roar of the fires. The destruction was total. The Luftwaffe struggled. Outnumbered, outgunned, and outmaneuvered, their pilots fought bravely, but in vain. The struggle for air superiority was lost, a critical loss that would prove fatal. The bombing campaign took its toll on German war production. The industrial capacity of the Reich was crippled. Its ability to wage war slowly extinguished. Fuel became a phantom. The lifeblood of any air force, it dwindled to a trickle. Without it, the vaunted Luftwaffe was rendered impotent, its engines unable to roar. Then came Normandy, the invasion. The Allies stormed the beaches, opening a second front that would seal the Reich's fate. Above the beaches, Allied air power
reigned supreme.
The skies belonged to them. The ground war became a slaughter. Allied air attacks decimated German armor and supply lines. The Luftwaffe's failure to adapt to this new reality was now a catastrophe. Paris fell. The heart of occupied Europe was liberated. The end was near. The Luftwaffe, weakened by its adherence to a flawed doctrine, had failed to protect its homeland. Berlin burned, the heart of the Third Reich consumed by fire, a monument to a decaying empire, the final chapter being written. The Reich's war machine, once feared across the globe, was crumbling. The culmination of years of brutal conflict arrived. The Second World War's end was a grim testament to the cost of ambition and the devastating power of modern warfare. The Luftwaffe's failure taught a brutal lesson. Doctrine without adaptation leads to strategic suicide. A stark reminder that in the theater of war, only the flexible survive. From the ruins, a new world began to emerge, forever,
shaped by the lessons learned in the skies above a continent consumed by conflict.